There are moments when the story loosens, not dramatically, quietly. Someone arrives in a place they were told to fear and finds themselves welcomed. Someone meets people they were taught to misunderstand and realizes the conversation is easy. A joke lands, a meal is shared, and suddenly the old story has a problem because experience has entered the room. For years, we have been told about each other. We inherited narratives about nations, cultures, beliefs, and identities. Some of those stories came from real wounds. But wounds can become walls, and before long, entire populations begin relating to one another through second-hand fear. We stop meeting people. We meet the story first. That is what makes this moment feel different. It is not about a game, though the game may be the doorway. It is about what happens when ordinary people occupy the same space long enough for inherited stories to lose authority. The visitor discovers the country is not what they were told. The host discovers the visitor is not what they expected. The stranger stops being an idea. This is where narratives lose some of their grip. Not because someone defeated them, but because direct experience is harder to control. There is a line going around that feels almost too simple. We are finally meeting our cousins because our parents have been fighting for so long. That may be the piece beneath the piece. Governments fought, histories fought, institutions fought, and meanwhile, the cousins grew up apart. They inherited arguments before they ever met the family. Then one day, they met. Not to erase differences, not to become the same. The differences matter. Culture matters. Humor matters. Food matters. Language matters. But difference is not the same thing as danger. And perhaps that is what people are remembering. We were never meant to know one another only through headlines. We were never meant to inherit every argument as if it were our own blood. Something in us still recognizes goodness when it appears without performance. A shared laugh, a helping hand, a family opening a door, a stranger giving directions, a crowd singing together. This is not sentimentality. It may actually be one of the more dangerous things that can happen to a controlled story. Because once experience contradicts the narrative never holds quite the same way again. The category softens. The enemy becomes a face. The foreigner becomes a cousin. And the world becomes harder to divide. A global gathering can look like spectacle from the outside. And perhaps it is. But beneath the noise, something else can happen. People can remember what the systems forgot. That culture is not politics. That hospitality is older than propaganda. That most people are not walking manifestos. That the human heart still recognizes warmth, humor, courage, beauty, and welcome. This is not only about outsiders discovering us. It is also about us seeing ourselves again, not through endless contempt and division, but through fresh eyes. Sometimes we need the stranger to remind us what we have forgotten. Sometimes we need the cousin to walk through the door and ask, "Do you know what you have here?" Perhaps we have lived inside the argument for so long that we stopped seeing the house, stopped seeing the table, stopped noticing that the light was still on. That is why this feels like remembering. Not because everything is healed, not because the old stories disappear, but because the cousins have met now. And once that happens, the family story changes. Maybe the new world does not begin with treaties. Maybe it begins with a shared meal. Maybe it begins with laughter. Maybe it begins when experience becomes stronger than inheritance. And maybe that is what we remember when the narrative loses its grip. We remember that we belong to one another before anyone told us we did not. The signal continues. If this transmission resonated, don't forget to like and subscribe here and continue the journey with the next video. You can also follow the work on Substack at tendingtheinbetween.substack.com.